Graham. We're talking to Trevor Kavanagh, political columnist at The Sun, of course. Trevor, I don't know whether you were as amazed as I was when you read Nadine Dorries' farewell letter to Rishi Sunak. She spent an awfully long time writing that, I presume, and she waited an awfully long time before delivering it. But I thought much of what she said was actually true.
Yes, it was pretty eye-popping stuff, wasn't it, Mike? Yeah. But look, I think that there are a couple of points about this. First of all, you're right, there are some things that will chime with an awful lot of your viewers and our readers. I think that the timing of it seems to be a bit disingenuous. I think that the whole point of this is to blow Rishi Sunak out of the water, and to make sure that he does not win the next election, which is pretty unlikely anyway. But in the process, after all, she is damaging the prospects of some of her erstwhile fellow Tory MPs. This is going to be grist to the mill of the Labour Party, who will simply rerun the interviews that she's done on TV and use it as part of their election propaganda. So, in that sense, I think it was a bridge too far, frankly. But
but she's obviously very angry and very bitter, and I would imagine some of that is coming from her good friend Boris Johnson as well.
Well, I think that this is the problem. I think that one of the big gaping holes in this is that any suggestion that Boris Johnson has any role in the plight of the Conservative Party as we head towards the next election.
Right.
But look, at the same time, there were some targets that she hit squarely in the middle. Rishi Sunak has now been Prime Minister for the better part of a year, and we really don't feel, I think, as voters, any much different to what we were when he came in. Okay, the economy is stabilised, and the party is not, apart from Nadine, it has been fairly peaceful. But taxes are still the highest ever. We still have huge numbers of people coming in illegally across across the channel in boats. And I think that people are beginning to wonder why they would bother to turn out at the next election and vote Conservative. And that is the point that's going to really harm the government, is failure to turn out, not an affection for Labour, but a disaffection for the Tories, which will simply have people sitting at home, sitting on their hands.
Yes, absolutely right. Because The Sun this morning says, what is the point of Labour? Talking about Rachel Reeves and her latest U-turn. And I think that's a very good question, because I think a lot of people are wondering what the point of Labour is and what it is that they actually stand for. Nobody really knows. But more confusingly, perhaps, in the Times, a YouGov survey says Labour are more trusted on tax, immigration and law. And I don't know who the hell they're asking, because I don't know anybody that thinks they're more trustworthy, but the Times have found them.
Well, as we know, Mike, this depends on the way you ask the question.
Exactly.
On the track record of the government, I don't think there are many voters out there who would say that they were trustworthy with the economy. Remembering the note left by the last Deputy Chancellor, Labour Party, saying there's no money left, and on immigration, I think they threw open the doors to mass illegal immigration 20 years ago, and the population has increased by exponentially by millions since that point. So they've got no grounds for being able to argue that they know what to do. And worst of all, they are now basically reneging on everything they stood for as shortly as, say, 6 months ago, or when Keir Starmer was elected as leader. All of the promise, almost every single promise that they made, and he made personally at that time, has been reversed and denied and repudiated. And I think that eventually voters will begin to question whether they can trust Keir Starmer. Even his own party is asking that question. The New Statesman had a survey of readers recently, and their denunciation of the man who's supposed to be our next Prime Minister was astonishing to read. I mean, the adjectives were the sort of adjectives you would think that the Labour Party might level at what they described as Tory scum. It was quite vivid stuff.
Yes, it is quite extraordinary, isn't it? And also, of course, when you listen to Keir Starmer, he's so desperate not to kind of put a foot wrong that he doesn't actually move at all. He just stands still. He doesn't actually appear to want to go anywhere. He'd rather just kind of let things sort of operate around him, and he doesn't appear to have any strategy of any kind.
No, and it's not just you and me saying this, Mike. It's his own party,
Yeah.
his own MPs, and not just those readers of the New Statesman, fellow shadow ministers and people who I know very well who would love to see a Labour government coming in. Wonder what on earth Keir Starmer stands for. And the answer, frankly, is whatever you want him to stand for.
Right. Well, if you don't like his opinion, just wait around for a while and he'll change it. You know, and that's kind of what it seems to be. But I'm looking forward to whatever the Labour manifesto is going to say come the next election, because I don't think it's going to be very clear at all. But if Nadine Dorries is right, an awful lot of Tory party voters are not going to vote at all, are they?
Well, this is, as I say, the problem there. The abstentions are going to be the real deciding factor, none of the above. And so what Rishi has to do in the short time left to him is absolutely essential. First of all, he has to ignore whatever the Supreme Court says against Rwanda, if that's the verdict they come down with. And he must do something about the European Convention on Human Rights. He must be visibly seen to have stopped some of those boats and turned the tide against those people smugglers. Also, in the autumn statement, the mini budget that's coming up in a few weeks' time, he must do something very significant on tax cutting.
Yeah.
There's no way that they can get to the next election without doing something dramatic in terms of either inheritance tax, stamp duty, or some other very eye-catching initiative that makes people think that's worth turning out to vote for them.
Absolutely right. I'm going to leave you, Trevor, with a little video clip from America, where in Nevada they certainly know how to deal with the sort of eco-protesters that we are so often sort of saddled with. You know, not for them the kind of the louche, would you like a drink, or can I get you a cup of tea while you glued yourself to this is the police in Nevada just basically driving through these characters who are sitting on the road. The guy then gets out with a shotgun and points it at them and tells them to move, which works rather well, funnily enough. And apparently they don't really do much protesting in Nevada now after that.
Well, I think that millions of your viewers and listeners will be clapping and giving a round of applause. Yes. Desperately wishing that they might see the same sort of thing here.
Well, I mean, meanwhile, the police here have had to buy extra portions of 40-inch and larger waist-sized trousers because they're all so fat. And also, they've been told not to be so woke by Sir Mark Rowley, who apparently says that, you know, rainbow flags and taking the knee are things of the past.
Well, I wish the NHS would follow suit and do something about the gender wars that they're fostering in our hospitals and on the ward.
It really is. I mean, James Whale, our colleague who's been getting cancer treatment recently in hospital, was in hospital the other day, and they asked him if he was pregnant. You know.
That says it all, mate.
It really does. A man in his 70s, he said, I've got a bit of a stomach, he said, but I thought it was a bit rude, to be honest. But, you know, just ridiculous. Unbelievable. Trevor, great to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Trevor Kavanagh, political columnist at The Sun.